You know how sometimes you see something odd happen right outside your window, and your brain just goes, "Hey, probably a one-off?" That's exactly what I thought the first time I saw the HOA President's car sitting in my driveway. It was a Tuesday, mid-morning. I was sipping my coffee, hazelnut creamer, 2 sugars, don't judge me, when I noticed his car, a sleek black BMW, just there. Parked in my driveway like it belonged. No knock on the door, no text, nothing. At first, I thought maybe he had car trouble, or maybe he was visiting someone nearby and my place was just the most convenient spot. I mean, yeah, it was annoying, but I figured I'd let it go. After all, he is the HOA president. The guy probably has a million things going on, right? Wrong. That one-time event quickly turned into a twice-a-week thing, then daily. Always during business hours, always for a few hours at a time. He never asked for permission, never left a note. Just rolled in, parked like he owned the place, and left without a word. Now, I should mention, I live in a cul-de-sac. It's not exactly spacious, and my driveway isn't a luxury resort for stray vehicles. I have a 2-car garage, and most days I park 1 car outside, leaving the other spot open for guests, deliveries, or, me. Not for HOA royalty to come and go like it's valet service. Still, I told myself to be patient. Maybe he didn't realize how weird it was. Maybe it was temporary. Maybe he was just dealing with some kind of personal issue and didn't want to park in front of his own house. He lived 3 houses down. Yeah, 3. But then it got worse. One day I came home from running errands and found him already parked. There. I pulled up behind him and waited, assuming he'd see me and move. Nothing. So I honked. Just a gentle toot-toot. Nothing aggressive. After about 30 seconds, he finally came out of my backyard. Yes, my backyard. Apparently, he was checking on fence compliance, or something ridiculous like that, as if that gave him the right to stroll through my property like he was hosting a Thai barbecue. I asked him as politely as I could, "Hey, do you mind not using my driveway without asking?" He grinned, like full teeth, smug politician grin, and said, "Oh, I figured you didn't mind. It's just easier than parking in front of my house. Yours is closer to the HOA office anyway." What? Excuse me? I was too stunned to respond, with anything more than a sarcastic chuckle and a half nod. I let it go that day, but inside, I was boiling. My driveway had become a rest stop for the HOA president, and I didn't even get a thank you. Not a heads up. Not even a neighborly courtesy. Wave. What really sealed it for me was the time he blocked in my actual guest. My friend Jake stopped by, parked behind the BMW because that's all the space there was, and when the president came out, he literally demanded Jake move his car. The audacity. The pure HOA audacity. That's when I knew this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This wasn't accidental. This man had appointed himself as the king of my concrete real estate. And apparently, in his mind, being the HOA president gave him parking privileges on any driveway he pleased. I wish I could say I marched right inside and filed a formal complaint, but I didn't. Why? Because he is the complaint department. He's the president. The guy who writes the rules, enforces them, and sends out those passive-aggressive newsletters with phrases like, "Please be mindful of community standards." So what was I supposed to do? Send a strongly worded email to myself? No, I needed to play the long game. I needed a plan, and I needed to make sure he never parked in my driveway again, not without paying the price. But in that moment, I kept my cool. I nodded politely. Let him get in his car. Let him drive off, and I started taking notes. Every time he parked there. Every time he walked across my lawn. Every time he used my private space like it was a public utility. I wrote it all down. I even started snapping a few pictures from my ring cam. Because if I was going to confront this guy, I wanted receipts. I didn't know what my plan was yet, but I knew this much. He thought I was just another passive homeowner, someone who would never push back against the almighty HOA. He had no idea what I was capable of. At first, I thought maybe I was just overreacting. You know how sometimes you get annoyed and then your brain starts obsessing over every little thing? I didn't want to be that guy. Some neighbor grumbling about a parking issue like it was the end of the world. But I wasn't imagining this. The HOA president really had adopted my driveway like it was deeded to him. What started as the occasional oops became a daily ritual. I kid you not, every morning at around 9:30 a.m., the same black BMW would roll into my driveway like clockwork, like it had a reserved spot. No knock, no text, no nothing. Just vroom, there it is. And the worst part? It wasn't even subtle. Sometimes he'd wave at my security camera, like this was all a fun little game. Now I work from home, so I see everything. I started watching from the window just to confirm my suspicions, and, yep, he wasn't parking there because of a lack of space. His own driveway was always wide open. The man just preferred mine. I guess the 3-house walk was too much effort for him. Or maybe it was about control, power. HOA presidents and their little kingdoms, right? At first, I tried dropping hints. I casually mentioned it to a few neighbors. Hey, you noticed the HOA president parking in my driveway lately? They'd raise their eyebrows and go, wait, yours, not his? One neighbor even laughed and said, maybe he's trying to claim squatters' rights. Funny, until it wasn't. Because then it started impacting me. I'd come home and have to wait for him to leave. I had to call him once to move his car, so I could get into my own garage. He acted like I was the inconvenience. Oh, sorry, he said, not even looking up from his phone. Didn't realize you were coming back so soon. It was my house, my driveway. But somehow, I was the guest. One afternoon, I caught him walking back from my backyard again, clipboard in hand like he was doing some kind of neighborhood inspection. He saw me standing on the porch and gave me that same smug grin. Just checking your gutters, he said. I blinked. Why? Because we've had a few reports of runoff issues, he replied, as if that explained why he was traipsing around my property like a home inspector. I didn't say it then, but I was starting to realize this guy genuinely believed he could do whatever he wanted. No boundaries, no consequences. Just HOA business as the umbrella excuse for everything. That was the last straw for me. I started documenting everything. Dates, times, screenshots of my security footage, photos of his car parked in my driveway from every angle. I kept a notebook right by the front door. My inner petty detective was officially activated, and the more I observed, the clearer the pattern became. He wasn't using my driveway out of necessity. He was using it out of convenience and entitlement. Some days he'd leave his car there for hours. Other times, just long enough to hop into someone else's car, like he was carpooling. He never asked, never informed. It was always just assumed that my property was available to him. And the irony? Every month, this guy sent out newsletters to the whole neighborhood preaching about respecting boundaries and preserving community harmony. I saved those newsletters too. They were going to come in handy. Eventually, my patience snapped. Not in a loud, dramatic explosion. No. This wasn't going to be handled with shouting. I had something much better in mind, but I needed a bit more time. While I gathered my evidence, I decided to try a more direct approach. One day, when he rolled into my driveway like usual, I stepped outside and met him before he could walk off. Hey, I said, keeping my voice calm but firm. I'd appreciate it if you stopped using my driveway without asking. He smiled. Oh, come on. You've got the space. It's not hurting anyone. I stared at him. It's private property. That's not really the point. He laughed. You're not really going to make a big deal out of a little parking spot, are you? That's when it hit me. He thought this was a game. He genuinely believed that because I hadn't blown up or gone full legal mode, I was just going to keep letting it happen. Like I was too nice or too spineless to stand up to the HOA boss. He had no idea who he was messing with. I smiled back. You're right, It's not a big deal. It's just a driveway. And that was the last conversation we had before things changed forever. Over the next few days, I started making calls. Doing research. Planning. If he thought I was going to keep letting him waltz onto my property without a second thought, he was in for the surprise of his life. He was about to learn a valuable lesson about boundaries, permission, and what happens when you push a quiet neighbor just a little too far. Let's just say, tolls were about to be introduced to the neighborhood. There's something about a smug laugh that just flips a switch inside you. I wasn't even mad in the traditional sense. I was focused, crystal clear. After that little chuckle from the HOA president, something in me went, oh, okay. Game on, see? When someone disrespects your space once, you chalk it up to a misunderstanding. When they do it daily and laugh in your face when you politely ask them to stop, that's not a misunderstanding. That's a challenge, and I've never been one to back down from a challenge. That night, I sat at my computer and did what every reasonable person does when faced with neighborhood tyranny. I went down a rabbit hole of revenge ideas. Nothing illegal, nothing dangerous, but I was looking for maximum petty, high-impact results. Something that would make a statement without ever raising my voice. At first, I thought about planting shrubs, maybe some boulders. Heck, I even considered putting up one of those fake private driveway violators will be towed signs. But none of it felt satisfying enough. I wanted something that would be functional and funny. Something so over the top that no one, especially him, would ever forget it. Then it hit me. A toll gate. I laughed out loud, sitting there in the glow of my laptop. A toll gate for my own driveway. It was ridiculous. It was dramatic. It was perfect. And most importantly, it was completely legal. I owned the property. It was my land. As long as I wasn't blocking city access or interfering with emergency services, I had the right to install pretty much whatever I wanted. A toll gate? Technically, it was just a barrier. No law against that. So I got to work. I started by sketching out a basic plan. A retractable arm-style gate, the kind you see in private lots or community garages. Simple, clean. Unmistakably, you do not have permission vibes. I'd attach a small keypad and set up a camera to monitor entries. Oh, and, for dramatic effect, I'd add a sign right above it that said, "Private access only. HOA Presidents pay double." Was it petty? Absolutely. Was it earned? You bet. I ordered the parts online: motorized gate arm, keypad unit, reflective stickers, a couple of metal posts, and scheduled a weekend to install it. In the meantime, I didn't say a word. I let him keep using the driveway like nothing was coming. Let him keep walking around like he was untouchable. Let him keep waving at my security camera like he owned the place. By the time the gate equipment arrived, I had the perfect plan ready. Saturday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m., threw on my work gloves, and started drilling into the concrete at the base of my driveway. Post by post, bolt by bolt, the structure started to take shape. A few neighbors walked by, curious. I just smiled and said, "It's time for a little home improvement." By 4 p.m. it was done. A shiny white and red striped gate stood proudly at the edge of my driveway. The keypad beeped with every press, and the metal sign glinted in the sunlight. Private driveway. Unauthorized vehicles will be charged a $50 convenience fee. I even included a fake payment method: accepted, Cash App, Venmo, or cookies baked with sincere apologies. That evening, I waited. Sunday morning rolled around. Like clockwork, the black BMW pulled up. But this time, it stopped short. Right in front of the toll gate. He honked. Once. Twice. I peeked through the blinds, sipping my coffee like a villain in a movie. Eventually, he got out of his car and approached the gate, clearly confused. He read the sign, looked at the keypad, pressed a few buttons. Nothing happened. Then he stormed up to my door and knocked. I opened it, slowly. Calm, friendly. "Morning," I said. He pointed at the gate. "What the hell is this?" "It's a driveway barrier," I replied. "Installed it yesterday." "You can't just block your driveway like that." I raised an eyebrow. "It's my driveway. I can do whatever I want on my property. HOA's rules don't say anything about gate arms." He blinked, stunned. "You're being ridiculous." "No," I said, "I was being polite, but since that didn't work." I motioned toward the gate. "Now I'm being practical." He stood there, speechless. I let the silence hang. "Look," I said, "if you need to use it in an emergency or something, just text me. But casual, daily parking, that ship has sailed. You're welcome to park in your own driveway like the rest of us." He muttered something under his breath and walked back to his car. Drove off. And just like that, no more BMW in my driveway. Not the next day. Not the day after. It was like I had installed garlic for HOA vampires. But that wasn't the end. Oh, no. Because a few days later, I got a letter. An official HOA letter. Apparently, the president had called an emergency board meeting about my gate. The letter came on a Tuesday. Thick envelope. HOA letterhead. My name spelled in all caps like I was being summoned to court. For a second, I laughed. I was almost flattered. But then I opened it. Inside was a 3-page single-spaced document that can only be described as the HOA's version of a cease and desist. They called my toll gate a barrier to community accessibility, said it violated neighborhood cohesion, and even cited some vague clause about external structures not aligning with community standards. Translation? I bruised the president's ego, and now he was hiding behind paperwork. But here's the kicker. The last paragraph of the letter said I had 7 days to remove the toll gate or face formal sanctions, including but not limited to fines, legal action, and possible revocation of HOA privileges. I read that part twice. Revocation of privileges? What does that even mean? They gonna ban me from the community pool I don't use? I won't lie. That part got under my skin. Not because I was worried, but because the audacity of it was next level. I had been patient. I had been reasonable. But the moment I pushed back with structure, they tried to pull the rug out from under me. So I did what any stubborn, sleep-deprived homeowner would do. I called my lawyer. Yup, I got one. Not because I needed to go nuclear, but because I wanted to make sure every move I made from this point on was bulletproof. The goal wasn't to fight dirty. It was to fight smart. Within an hour, I was sitting in a local attorney's office, laying out the entire situation like a season of a Netflix drama. He listened, took notes, sipped his coffee like this wasn't even close to the craziest thing he'd heard all week. When I was done, he leaned back and said, "Well, the good news is they're bluffing. Turns out, unless the HOA bylaws specifically prohibit gated driveways, I was in the clear. And in our HOA manual, which, yes, I brought with me, they didn't mention anything about it. They had plenty of opinions on paint color and lawn height and mailbox styles, but nothing on driveway access control. My lawyer even offered to write a response for me, but I had something better in mind. I didn't just want to keep my gate. I wanted to make it official. So the next day, I submitted a request to the county for a residential access control permit. It was a formality more than anything, but it would legitimize my setup. I included photos of the gate, the keypad, even the goofy sign. I made sure everything was up to safety codes, visibility, reflectors, no obstruction to pedestrians. I even added a backup battery in case of power outages. Within 48 hours, the county approved it. Boom, done. I laminated the permit and posted it right next to the gate. Then I wrote a letter of my own. Dear HOA Board, in response to your recent letter regarding the unauthorized structure at the entrance of my driveway, I would like to inform you that I have taken all necessary legal and municipal steps to ensure full compliance with both property laws and county regulations. Please find enclosed a copy of my approved residential access control permit, which confirms the legality of the driveway barrier currently installed on my property. To be clear, the driveway is privately owned, maintained, and operated by me. Access to it is a courtesy, not an entitlement. Should you or any board members continue to interfere with or attempt to remove said barrier without legal cause, I will consider such actions as trespassing and respond accordingly. Wishing you a secure and peaceful day. Warm regards. I printed it on high-quality paper. Mailed one copy, hand-delivered another to the HOA office, and yes, I also emailed it. PDF format, triple threat. I didn't hear anything for 3 days. Then I got an email, no subject line, from the HOA secretary. It was short, just said, "Thank you for the documentation. We consider the matter closed." Translation? I won, but I wasn't done yet. The next weekend, I hosted a little gathering on my lawn. Nothing major, just a few neighbors, lawn chairs, sodas, some music at a reasonable volume. I invited the folks who had seen the president using my driveway and shook their heads in disbelief. As they came in, I gave them a quick tour of the gate that made HOA history. People loved it. They laughed at the sign, admired the build, and asked where I got the idea. That's when something interesting started happening. They started talking about their issues with the HOA. One guy got fined for having a flag on his porch. A woman said she was written up for having a garden gnome that was too whimsical. It was like opening the floodgates. I realized something. It wasn't just me. This guy, this president, he'd been throwing his weight around the whole neighborhood. I had just happened to push back first. So when one of the neighbors said, "You should run for the board," I didn't laugh. I thought about it. Maybe it was time for a little leadership change. It started as a joke. One neighbor nudged me at the BBQ, paper plate loaded with ribs, and said, "You know, you've done more for this neighborhood in a week than the HOA has in 5 years. You should run for president." I laughed, hard, like tears in my eyes kinda laugh. The idea of me running for HOA president? I thought it was hilarious. I had spent years dodging their emails, avoiding the meetings, pretending not to see their ridiculous rule reminders on the bulletin board. I was the anti-HOA guy, but then someone else said it, then another, then someone from 2 streets over, showed up at my gate, not to argue about tolls, but to thank me. "I wish more people would stand up to them like you did," she said. "They just walk all over us." And that's when it clicked. This wasn't just about a driveway anymore. It was about people being tired of the power trips, tired of the petty fines, tired of the feeling that their own homes, their own lives, were being micromanaged by a board that forgot they were supposed to serve the community, not rule it. So I started thinking, what if I did run? At first, it was just a fun idea to kick around. I mean, how hard could it be? Attend some meetings, listen to people, maybe rewrite a rule or two so folks don't get fined for having their kids bike on the lawn for 10 minutes. But then I did my research. Turns out, our HOA board hadn't held a proper election in years. The same people had been rotating roles, president 1 year, secretary the next, treasurer after that, like it was a private club. Half the neighborhood didn't even know when the next vote was. And when I asked around, most people thought they weren't allowed to run. I wasn't just dealing with bad leadership. I was dealing with a full-blown HOA regime. So I decided, screw it, I'm in. I pulled the bylaws, highlighted the parts about elections, terms, eligibility. I found the nomination form buried in the appendix of a PDF from 2003, filled it out, and submitted it. Then I printed up flyers, big, bold letters. "Tired of the hose nonsense? So am I. Let's fix this." I walked the whole neighborhood, one driveway at a time. No campaign manager, no speeches, just real conversations with people who had stories, so many stories. One guy showed me a $100 fine he got for leaving his trash bin out for 5 minutes past pickup time. A woman told me the board made her repaint her front door twice because the shade of blue didn't match the neighborhood aesthetic. By the time I reached the final house on my list, I wasn't just running for HOA President. I was running against tyranny. Of course, the current board wasn't exactly thrilled. The president, yes, the very same guy who used my driveway like it was a public road, sent out a mass email the day after my flyers went up. It was a pathetic attempt to paint me as disruptive and unqualified. He even wrote, "Do we really want someone in charge who installed a toll gate?" I laughed so hard I nearly fell out of my chair. Because here's the thing, people love that toll gate. It had become a symbol. It was the driveway version of "Don't Tread on Me." It wasn't just about blocking one guy. It was about standing up to a system that forgot who it worked for. Election day came. Or rather, voting day, since they insisted on doing it by mail like it was 1982. But this time, people actually voted. I had helped dozens of folks get their ballots, walk through the process, and submit them. When the results were announced, I was standing right by my gate. They posted it on the community website first. Then came the bulletin board update. Then, the email blast. I won. Not just by a little. It was a landslide. 72% of the votes. I'd never even seen 72% of my neighbors before that day. The current president resigned that same afternoon. No statement, no apology, just gone. The first thing I did as the new HOA president, I removed the rule about aesthetically approved colors for doors. If you want a lime green door with glitter on it, go for it. It's your house. Next, I rewrote the section that allowed for surprise fines without warning. From now on, every HOA complaint had to come with a photo, a timeline, and a warning before any money changed hands. And then, I made meetings accessible online. Zoom, email summaries, open voting, no more HOA in the shadows. Now look, I'm not pretending like I saved the world. I didn't end global warming. I didn't fix traffic. But in this tiny slice of suburbia, I gave people their voices back. I reminded them that their homes are theirs, not some board's sandbox. The toll gate, still up, still working, still hilarious. But now, no one complains about it. In fact, someone recently asked where they could buy one of their own. So yeah, the guy who installed a toll gate out of spite. Now I run the HOA. Funny how that works.